Chapter 3: A Taste of Intensity. Maya's heart raced as she and Finn made their way through the shadowy back alleys of Neo-Tokyo. The emotion they had stolen from Nora's auction pulsed in the palm of Maya's hand, its power radiating through her skin. Finn glanced at her, his eyes narrowed with concern. "You sure you can handle that thing?" he asked, his voice low. "We have no idea what it's capable of." Maya clenched her fist around the emotion, feeling its intensity surge through her. "I can manage it," she replied, her tone laced with a newfound confidence. "We need to understand what Dr. Emerson is hiding in that vault. This could be the key." They hurried into an abandoned warehouse, the dimly lit space serving as a makeshift headquarters for Maya's underground resistance movement. Finn immediately set to work analyzing the stolen emotion, his fingers flying across the holograms of his makeshift workstation. Maya paced the floor, her mind racing. The last thing she expected was to come face to face with her estranged sister, Nora, at the auction. Seeing Nora's icy composure as she outbid the others for that rare emotion stirred up a maelstrom of memories and emotions that Maya had long tried to bury. "All right, I think I've got something," Finn announced, drawing Maya's attention back to the task at hand. "This emotion is unlike anything I've ever seen. The intensity and depth are off the charts." Maya moved closer, peering over Finn's shoulder at the data displayed on the screens. "What does that mean? Is it dangerous?" Finn shook his head, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Not exactly. It's powerful, but there's a purity to it, an unfiltered essence that's been completely suppressed. If we can harness it, it could be a game changer." A spark of hope ignited within Maya. "Then we need to figure out how to use it against Emerson and his elites. Can you trace where it came from?" Finn's fingers flew across the controls, his eyes narrowing as he studied the data. "It's definitely from Emerson's private vault. The signature is a perfect match. Whatever this emotion is, he's been hoarding it, keeping it from the public." Maya's jaw tightened, her fingers curling around the pulsing emotion. "Then we need to get inside that vault. Whatever Emerson is hiding, it could be the key to bringing down his entire empire." Finn nodded, a glint of determination in his eyes. "I'll start working on a plan. In the meantime, you should be careful with that thing. The intensity could be overwhelming." Maya glanced down at the emotion, feeling its power thrumming in her palm. "I can handle it," she murmured, a newfound resolve shaping her words. "I have to." Nora paced the pristine floors of her penthouse apartment, her brow furrowed with a mixture of confusion and unease. The emotion she had acquired at the auction had been stolen, snatched right from under her nose by that reckless, spiteful sister of hers. She paused in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out over the towering skyscrapers and neon-lit streets of Neo-Tokyo. The city had always been her domain, a playground for the elite where she could indulge her every whim and desire. But now, something felt off, a subtle shift in the way she experienced the world around her. Nora brushed a hand across her chest, feeling the faint trembling of her heartbeat. The absence of the emotion was unsettling, like a void had been carved out of her very being. She had never felt this way before, this strange sense of loss and longing. "Miss Nora, your appointment with Dr. Emerson is in 1 hour," her personal assistant Ava announced, interrupting Nora's introspection. Nora turned, her expression hardening. "Cancel it. I need to speak with him immediately." Ava blinked in surprise, but quickly complied, her nimble fingers tapping on the holographic interface. "Right away, Miss Nora. I'll inform Dr. Emerson of your request." Nora strode across the room, her steps filled with a sense of purpose she had not felt in years. As the elevator whisked her down to the ground level, she couldn't help but wonder what had triggered this sudden change within her. Was it the loss of the emotion, or was it something deeper, a crack in the carefully constructed facade she had maintained for so long? The sleek, self-driving hovercar arrived at Dr. Emerson's private research facility within minutes. Nora stepped out, her designer heels clicking against the pristine pavement as she approached the guarded entrance. The security personnel recognized her immediately, granting her access without hesitation. Nora marched through the sterile, high-tech corridors, her eyes searching for any sign of Dr. Emerson. She found him in his office, surrounded by holographic displays and the faint hum of machinery. "Nora, my dear," Dr. Emerson greeted her with a genial smile, rising from his chair. To what do I owe this unexpected visit? Nora cut straight to the point, her voice edged with a rare display of emotion. Someone stole the emotion I purchased at the auction. I want to know how this happened, and I want it back. Dr. Emerson's expression shifted, a flicker of concern crossing his features. Stolen? That's most unfortunate. I assure you, we take the security of our auctions very seriously. Perhaps we can. Don't give me that, Nora interrupted, her eyes narrowing. You know exactly what happened. Your precious emotion trade is being disrupted, and I want answers. Dr. Emerson held up his hands in a placating gesture. Now, Nora, let's not jump to conclusions. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for this. Why don't you tell me exactly what happened? Nora took a deep breath, forcing herself to regain her composure. I was outbid at the auction by my sister, Maya. She stole the emotion right from under my nose. Dr. Emerson's brow furrowed, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. Maya, you say? I see. This is an unexpected development. Nora leaned forward, her gaze piercing. What do you know about her, Emerson? And how can we get the emotion back? Dr. Emerson stroked his chin, his expression thoughtful. Maya has been a thorn in my side for some time now. A brilliant but reckless emotion hacker, part of an underground resistance movement. He paused, his eyes narrowing. As for the emotion, it's imperative that we retrieve it. That particular feeling is quite rare and powerful. In the wrong hands, it could prove disastrous. Nora's jaw tightened. Then you'll help me get it back? Dr. Emerson nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. Of course, my dear. I'll mobilize my best teams to track down this stolen emotion and your sister. Rest assured, we'll get to the bottom of this. Nora's shoulders relaxed ever so slightly, but the unease lurking in the back of her mind refused to subside. See that you do, Emerson. I can't afford to have my collection disrupted, especially not by that woman. As Nora turned to leave, a nagging thought gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. What was it about this stolen emotion that had Dr. Emerson so concerned? And what did it have to do with her sister, Maya? Back in the dimly lit warehouse, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, the pulsing emotion cradled in her hands. She could feel it, the raw power coursing through her veins, a rush of intensity that threatened to overwhelm her senses. Finn watched her warily, his fingers poised over the holographic controls. Maya, you need to be careful. That emotion is dangerous, even for an experienced hacker like you. Maya took a deep, steadying breath, her gaze locked on the emotion. I know, Finn, but I have to understand it. There's something special about this feeling, something Emerson has been hiding from the world. Finn shook his head, his expression uneasy. If Emerson is so intent on keeping it hidden, maybe there's a good reason. We don't know what kind of effects it could have. Maya's eyes narrowed, her determination unwavering. That's exactly why we need to figure it out. Emerson's been controlling the emotion trade for far too long. If this can help us take him down, we have to try. Finn sighed, knowing there was no dissuading Maya when she was in this kind of mood. All right, but let me monitor you closely. The last thing we need is for you to get lost in that thing. Maya nodded, her focus solely on the emotion. Slowly, she allowed it to seep into her consciousness, feeling its power surge through her body. The intensity was overwhelming, a tidal wave of sensation that threatened to drown her. Memories flashed through her mind, long-buried emotions resurfacing with a vengeance. She saw her childhood, the laughter and love she had shared with Nora, before everything fell apart. The pain of their estrangement, the bitterness that had festered for years, all came rushing back, amplified 1,000-fold. Maya gasped, her hands shaking as she struggled to maintain her grip on the emotion. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she could feel her heart racing, her entire being consumed by the raw, unfiltered intensity. Finn rushed to her side, his eyes wide with concern. Maya, can you hear me? You need to let go of that thing. It's too much. But Maya couldn't tear herself away. The emotion had become a living, breathing entity, enveloping her in its overwhelming embrace. She was drowning in a sea of feelings, her own sense of self fading away. In the distance, the sound of alarms blared, signaling that their location had been compromised. Finn cursed under his breath, his hands flying across the controls as he tried to lock down the system. Damn it, Maya, we've got company. I need you to snap out of it now. Maya heard Finn's words, but they seemed to come from a million miles away, muffled by the roar of emotions crashing through her mind. She was losing herself, her very identity dissolving in the face of this unbridled power. As security teams converged on the warehouse, Maya's world narrowed to a single point of focus, the emotion in her hands. She knew she had to let go, to break free from its grasp, but the temptation was too strong. The intensity was addictive, a siren's call that promised to engulf her completely. Finn's voice grew more desperate, but Maya could barely hear him. She was trapped, consumed by the emotion, her own sense of self slowly slipping away. The fate of the resistance, the future of Neo Tokyo, and her own life now hung in the balance, as Maya's struggle against the overwhelming power of the stolen emotion reached its climax.